सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
Politics in our country really plays out in a way that's public, not whispers in the corridor, or not something that Gyani journalists bring to you, being flies on the wall or claiming to be flies on the wall. मैंने ये सुना, a source told me, I heard this, informed sources tell me, this is my understanding. Not like that. Politics plays out in full public view when our parliament is in session. When our parliament is in session and our parliament functions, not when there are adjournments, bedlam, storming of the well, etc. When people actually speak, which is precisely what's been happening in Parliament for a couple of days now and will carry on tomorrow, which probably should be the last day of this session, of this monsoon session. Now, this debate has opened out because of the no trust motion that the opposition moved against the Modi government. Now, everybody knows that this no trust motion will only be won by the Modi government because these things go by the logic of numbers, and numbers are fully on the Modi government side. Modi government, if anything in a house of 543, will get close to 350 votes or thereabouts, give or take a few this side or that much they will get because NDA itself has its numbers and there will be other parties that will vote for it. So in a no confidence motion, who wins or loses the vote is not really an issue. In fact, the story is that in the entire history of India, where so many no confidence motions have taken place, nobody has really lost a no confidence motion. No incumbent government is lost in a no confidence motion. Although Morarji Desai's Janata government, while they were facing a no confidence motion moved by the Congress party, did not let it come to vote. They resigned because they knew they were going to vote. They were a broken party already. The Janata party was broken by that time in 1979. So he resigned before facing the vote. So barring that exception, if governments have fallen in India's history, they've fallen on confidence votes, not on no confidence votes. For example, Vajpayee government fell twice, once after 13 days. That was in 1996 when he came to power for the first time. That is when his government sought a vote of confidence. When a new government moves in, is sworn in, they seek a vote of confidence. That's a constitutional requirement. He failed that the first time. The second time, in 99 May, he moved a vote of confidence because there were divisions in his coalition. So to prove his credibility, he moved a coalition and lost quite surprisingly. That surprised everybody, including him. Lost quite surprisingly by just one vote. So the two occasions on which a government has fallen was on confidence votes. Confidence votes are taken when the government itself is uncertain of its position and wants to assert that it has a majority. Once again, a government that came at one point close to a troublesome situation was the first Manmohan Singh government when it sought a confidence vote over the nuclear deal. It was not a no confidence vote. The government itself sought a confidence vote and it won it. And then, all that vote for cash or cash for vote kind of tamasha took place. Most of the people, by the way, who were caught in that cash for vote business, at least some of them or several of them ultimately ended up in the BJP. One of them is also a junior minister with the BJP now. That aside, a no confidence motion is a time when everybody has an opportunity to speak out. And opposition parties, why do they move no confidence motions when they know they are definitely going to lose, they are not going to win? That's because it's an opportunity when a certain amount of time is allocated for a debate. And a lot of the time also goes to the opposition. So they can say their piece, which otherwise they might not be able to do. And then in terms of what you say, you have the parliamentary immunity. So you can say many things that you may not be able to say or may not want to say in public. So a parliamentary debate is the gift that a no confidence motion gives the country and gives the voters of the country, which is exactly what's playing out. Now, I will not give you a summary of all that's happened over 2 days. He said this, she said this. She said this, he countered this. Not like that. And nor am I making a judgment over who has got the better of the exchanges so far, because both sides are trading punches. Finally, Mr. Modi himself will speak as the final speaker, and then there will be a vote. But what I am going to tell you is a few strands and highlights that I have picked up, because after all, no confidence motion is moved by the opposition. So what is it that the opposition is saying, and how are they building their campaign against Narendra Modi just a few months before his government goes into caretaker mode? I think by early February next year, that is in just over 6 months from now, his government will become a caretaker, and then campaigning will begin, and then multiple rounds of voting will take place for the 2024 general elections. By mid-May 2024 next year, a new government will come in. So by this time, the opposition, you would expect, has figured out an approach or a strategy on how to attack or how to fight the incumbent. In this case, a twice incumbent, and in this case also a very strong incumbent, not at all a shaky incumbent. In fact, there is very little indication from opinion polls, also from state elections that have taken place, Karnataka being an exception, that there is some massive anti-incumbency in the country. So how does the opposition then attack this strong incumbent? Other important thing that's happened is that the opposition now has a unity that they haven't had during Narendra Modi's 9 years so far. So now the India coalition, or INDIA, the India coalition has come in. It has 26 parties. This no confidence motion also is an opportunity for them to show that they are united. And that unity and unity of purpose also showed in the way they voted, say, in the Rajya Sabha over the bill changing the governance structure of Delhi, giving more powers to LG and through the LG Lieutenant Governor to the central government. Again, in Rajya Sabha, all of the constituents of this India coalition voted together, and because they voted together, their number came to 102. And think about it, their number came to 102. The BJP itself, the NDA itself is 111. BJP is 92. Then NDA constituents have some seats. Then there are 5 nominated members who are aligned to the BJP. Together, they are 111. So gap was only 9 because the opposition was united. BJP, of course, the government got 130 votes. That's because YSR's party in Andhra Pradesh, Naveen Patnaik's party in Odisha, one member of TDP, etc., all voted with the BJP in favor of the amendment in the law. Now, this 102 solid block tells you that so far this opposition alliance is united. And similarly, the parliament debate also is an opportunity for them to display to people, because by and large people are very skeptical of opposition unity. People are very skeptical of these multi-party alliances. This time, however, there is a difference. This alliance has a central core, which wasn't the case, say, with the earlier third front, fourth front governments. And because there was no central core to those coalitions, including the Janata Party of 1977, it had 4 strong parties, but no central core. Because they did not have a strong, dominant central core, it helped strengthen an impression in the popular mind, in the voters' mind, that these were khichdi alliances. Khichdi means you just put a lot of diverse people together, diverse ideas together, very amorphous alliances, brought together only by the idea that they wanted to get a leader or a party out, but with no real binding force. This alliance, on the other hand, has a sizable core, that is the Congress party. So this is what makes it different about this alliance. Even in the past, the alliances which have worked were alliances with a central core. For example, NDA worked because it had BJP as a strong, large central core. And similarly, UP also worked, initially quite tenuously, but later quite solidly in the second half, in its second innings, because it had again a strong core in the Congress party. So unless you have Congress in the middle or the BJP in the middle, an alliance cannot work. So this alliance is now there, and they are using this opportunity to display their coherence. Now, out of this debate where all alliance members are speaking, and you can see that they are not coming up with their own issues and their own problems. There is a certain unity of purpose, and that unity of purpose lies in how they've built or discussed among themselves or debated, and they've come to some kind of conclusion on how they are going to be attacking Narendra Modi, because they are not attacking the BJP and the RSS as much. I didn't hear that so much of that this time, or the ideology. A lot of the attack is on Narendra Modi. Now there are some distinctions and there are some highlights which I'd like to mention to you. Number one, compared to the last vote of no confidence against Narendra Modi in 2018, in that one, the theme was almost entirely about corruption. You will remember that was the era of Chaukidar Chor Hai. There was a lot of talk about Rafale. Rahul Gandhi said, you talk about Chaukidari, but you're doing Bhagidari. He said this referring to Rafale, basically that you're making money. He also said that Narendra Modi is not able to look into my eyes. Narendra Modi, on the other hand, replied back saying, calling Rahul Gandhi a Namdar, himself a Kamdar, and he said, I'm a Chaukidar and a Bhagidar, but not a Thekedar or Saudagar, but Bhagidar with the country and people of the country. That's how that debate carried on. That's how that debate proceeded. But the central theme in that debate was charges of corruption. That is what is missing right now. In the debate so far, and that's a very important highlight. Then you look at what is it that the opposition so far has been attacking the government on, because that gives you an idea on what will we see going into the campaign next year in parliament elections. Number one, there is a central thought, and the central thought is attack Narendra Modi's image. And how do you attack Narendra Modi's image? By focusing on every area where he seemed to be strong. So attack his strengths. Attack him on his strengths. So, for example, look at national security, national security, both internal security and external security. So the general impression is also Modi government's proposition is that his is a government that's very strong on national security. So attack him on that. That's the reason, bring in China, ask questions. So where are the Chinese patrolling? Where are you patrolling? Is it so? Now these are questions raised by Gaurav Gogoi, Manish Tiwari, others. That is it so that all the new buffer zones have been created in areas that earlier were in Indian control? There is also a reference to the police chief of Leh, who's supposed to have said that India has lost access to 26 of its patrolling points, and that's why there is a lot of talk about the failures in Manipur as well. Once again, just like the attacks on internal and external security, there are also attacks on patriotism and nationalism, and I will come to that in just a minute as I go into some more detail over what Rahul Gandhi said. Then the image of the Prime Minister of being strong and decisive, that's also under attack, and I will give you some instances as we go along. And finally, again, his image that he's compassionate, he thinks of the poor, he thinks of the country, listen to his Mann Ki Baat, he's talking to people directly, he brings in real life experiences, he's got empathy, compassion, and that he's a saintly figure who works 18, 19, 20 hours or whatever number of hours a day, has no other indulgences in life. His entire life is dedicated to the country. So that's another quality that the opposition is now attacking. So opposition is now going for broke. They are not attacking his people. They are not attacking some specific policies. They are not making charges of corruption. They are attacking the basic personality. So the four key elements of the Prime Minister's personality, the positive attributes that the BJP writes on and writes to success in multiple elections, those are the ones that the opposition is now attacking. And which are these four? Internal and external security, he's strong there. Number two, patriotism and nationalism. Number three, that he's strong and decisive. Number four, that he's compassionate and saintly. Now, how is the opposition attacking the Prime Minister on national security. I told you what Gaurav Gogoi, Manish Tiwari, etc. have said on China. But see what Rahul Gandhi is saying. He's saying you have murdered Hindustan. You have killed Bharat Mata in Manipur. He's gone on to say, आप देशद्रोही हैं, देशभक्त नहीं हैं. You are a traitor, not a patriot. So you can see that this is a very sharply targeted attack on the positive attributes of Narendra Modi, attributes on the basis of which a lot of people vote for him. Then he goes on to say, look at Raman. Raman only used to listen to Meghnad and Kumbhakarn. Similarly, Narendra Modi only listens to two people, that is Amit Shah and Adani. In fact, that's the only time he brings Adani into his speech. Otherwise, he keeps away from the Adani issue, which is something that he had raised the last time. And those references then had got controversially expunged after that. Then he goes on to say, Lanka was not burnt by Hanuman. Lanka was burnt by Raman's ahankar. Lanka was burnt because of Raman's arrogance. And then he further adds on, this is an attack on Modi's record on internal and external security and also on his patriotism and nationalism. And then he goes on to say, you are pouring kerosene all over the country. You poured kerosene in Manipur and set it on fire. Now you are trying to do the same in Haryana. You are burning the entire country. Right? That is again the attack on patriotism, nationalism, and the compassionate personality. Then he goes on to his usual love versus hatred tack. Gaurav Gogoi then goes on to say that when women were being assaulted in Manipur, remember that happened on 4th of May. Polling in Karnataka was May 10th. So let's get our date references right. I am adding that. He said when women were being assaulted in Manipur, and I am adding the date that happened on May 4. He says when women were being assaulted in Manipur, you were canvassing for votes in Karnataka. The Prime Minister was canvassing for votes in Karnataka. Also earlier, when the entire country was gasping for oxygen in the second wave of COVID, you were canvassing for votes in West Bengal. So how basically the underlying question or insinuation being that Narendra Modi's claims of being compassionate, selfless and a saintly figure are wrong. He's as power hungry as any politicians might be and cynical to boot. Then he goes on to say what's been happening with China, and he makes a reference to that late SP statement. But then he also says that you spoke with Xi Jinping in Bali. What happened between you and Xi Jinping? What was discussed? Why was MEA hiding it so far? And going on the same tag then, Supriya Sule of NCP says that, look, whatever you've done, again the implication is, she's not saying it directly, I am drawing that inference. She's saying what you've done, what you've been doing actually exemplifies hubris. You've toppled 9 governments in your 9 years. Kanimuri brings in the Tamil angle or the regional angle, not any demands of Tamil Nadu, but she says that you hail the Sengal as a Chola Sengal. You know nothing about history. Do you know anything about the Pandyan Sengal? Now the fact is, if you look at the history of no confidence motions in the country, and I have the list here, you will see it on your screens also. If you look at the history, you can see that in almost no case the opposition was anywhere in the wildest dreams in a position to bring down the government except once under Narasimha Rao. That was moved by the opposition against Narasimha Rao on 28 July 1993 when Narasimha Rao had been in power for 2 years. That is what came really close. So he was able to win 265 to 251. That is the only one where the opposition might have seen an opportunity to defeat him. Even before that he faced in 1992, it was 225 to 271. So he had a reasonable margin there. Now it was closer. Otherwise, of the 27, no confidence motion so far. The opposition side has only crossed the 100 mark 7 times. 100 out of 26. And they've crossed 200 only twice. In fact, if I take you back to the first no confidence motion in 1963. This was on 22nd August 1963 that J.B. Kriplani, Acharya Kriplani moved a no confidence motion against Jawaharlal Nehru. A lot of time was allocated to it, almost 22 hours were allocated to it. These days, so much time is not allocated to no confidence motions. In that, votes for the no confidence motion were just 62. So Nehru won 347 to 62. Please underline the fact that those days the strength of parliament wasn't 543, it was 494. So out of 494, Nehru and his Congress government got 347. The opposition only had 62. But it was a serious long discussion. The opposition was attacking him because India had just lost the war to China. Under his leadership, he was on the ropes. And look at what he said. And as I read out to you some of the lines he spoke, you would wonder if anything is really changed in our politics. So I quote from Nehru. He basically dismisses the idea of opposition unity in 1963, as I am sure Narendra Modi would do now. And he said, what has brought them together, that's the opposition, what has brought them together in this curious way, it is obvious that what has brought them together is a negative and not a positive fact. Not only a dislike of the government, perhaps, if I may say so, it is more a personal matter against me, both as leader of the government and otherwise. For all I know, Narendra Modi may say something very similar, albeit in Hindi language. Again, in 1963 as now, China was a big overhang over the debate. At that point, it was a post-war situation. Right now, there is an ongoing tension with China. These Nehru and Kriplani quotes, by the way, I pick up from a report in the Indian Express by Shyamlal Yadav. And J.B. Kriplani or Acharya Kriplani from the Praja Socialist Party then, who was also a champion parliamentarian, what did he say? He said Nehru's party may be in power, but they got only 45.27% votes, whereas the combined opposition got 54.76% votes. That's precisely the argument opposition makes to Narendra Modi and the BJP right now. And then he goes on to say that there will be no vacuum in politics. One ruler goes, another ruler comes in. The king is dead, long live the king. That is the principle. Now, as I conclude, let me also tell you a very interesting factoid. This debate is taking place on 22nd of August and thereabout. So like in the second half of August, just as August is ending, just 6 weeks later, in October the same year, just 6 weeks later, Sucheta Kriplani, that is J.B. Kriplani's wife, just 6 weeks later, Sucheta Kriplani is sworn in as the Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, as the Congress Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh. So that also gives you an insight into the quality of politics that was played out those days. That while J.B. Kriplani was among Nehru's most prominent and most vocal critics, and he had moved this no confidence motion, within a few weeks after that, his wife was sworn in as Congress Party's Chief Minister in India's most important state politically. In fact, Vajpayee was so sure of not getting the numbers in 1996 that after delivering his speech supporting his motion for the confidence vote, his government resigned immediately without facing the vote.